New look at the infamous O.J. Simpson trial. Prosecutor Christopher Darden now opening up in this candid interview, revealing what really happened behind the scenes of that landmark trial. And ABC's Mar Scavocampo joins us this morning. Good morning, Mar.
David, good morning. There's been a lot of renewed interest in that case, thanks in part to a new ESPN documentary. Now, Darden is revealing what really happened with that famous glove incident and what he thinks of Johnnie Cochran after all these years.
This morning, former O.J. Simpson prosecutor Christopher Darden making his case about the trial of the century.
I can't, rethink, my courtroom performance. I did what I did.
Darden speaking out for the first time since millions tuned into ESPN's groundbreaking documentary, O.J. Made in America. The documentary revisiting key moments of the real-life drama, highlighting the now iconic and divisive moment when Darden asked O.J. to try on the gloves.
It was the biggest fight Chris and I ever had.
That moment, a defining one in the trial.
Having a problem placing the glove on his hand.
Though Darden believes it was all an act,
The gloves fit. It's an illusion. It's propaganda.
Now, 21 years later, a stunning admission. Darden conceding that asking for the demonstration was a mistake.
I absolutely would not do it again. If I'd known back then what I know today.
But Darden pushes back on the idea defense attorney F. Lee Bailey tricked him into that fateful moment.
I went over to him and said, Chris, you're a good shot, but you've got the of a stud field mouse. That glove won't fit, O.J., and if you don't show the jury that be the fact, I will.
He couldn't goad me into anything. F. Lee Bailey was a joke. He was laughable.
Darden was a late add to the case, joining co-prosecutor Marcia Clark after previous co-counsel Bill Hodgman had a health scare just 3 months before opening statements, amid claims he was only put on the team because of his race.
Back then, I did not feel used because of my race. On reflection, now I'm not quite sure.
Simpson's acquittal affecting Darden deeply and personally.
With the realization that he had been acquitted, I am honored to have
Since the trial, Darden says he's unfairly shouldered a lot of the blame.
When people who were part of that trial point fingers, they need to point fingers at themselves. Garcetti, Clark, others. It seems to me that they still don't understand what happened in that courtroom. I do.
But when it comes to Johnnie Cochran,
I am ashamed that Mr. Darden would allow himself to become an apologist for this man.
Despite their fiery exchanges in front of the jury, Darden remembers his courtroom foe fondly.
I miss Johnny. I wish he were here. I wish we could sit in a room like this and argue about that case. As a lawyer, I had nothing but respect for Johnnie Cochran, and I still do.
Now, Darden also says that if he could do things again, he wouldn't even join the prosecution team at all. His book about that trial, In Contempt, is now available in paperback or on ebook. Robin?
All right, Mara, thank you. We're going to bring in CNN senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. He's in Washington, and ABC News senior legal correspondent Sunny Hostin is good enough to be with us here in the studio. Good morning to you both. Let me start with you, Jeffrey. You were there in that courtroom every day. What did you make?
I wasn't.
What did you make of Darden's performance?
Well, I thought he did a competent job mostly. The issue in the case was far more in jury selection and where the case was tried. The glove demonstration was a disaster. There's no question about it. But when you look at a jury that deliberated 3 hours in a 6-month trial, one courtroom mistake didn't make the difference. They were going to lose no matter what.
Yes, because of that quick verdict that they reached. And Sonny, we heard Christopher Darden say, if he had to do over again, he wouldn't have him try try on the glove. Mm-hmm. And do you think that he has shouldered much, is it fair, much of the blame that he has shouldered for the verdict, partly based on asking O.J. to try on the glove?
Well, you know, he shouldn't have done that courtroom demonstration with the gloves because you sort of learn the first day of law school that you don't do something in the courtroom that you haven't practiced before. And so that was a big mistake. But I actually interviewed him on The View yesterday, and he said, listen, I knew those gloves belonged to O.J. O.J.'s blood was in the gloves. Nicole's blood was in the gloves. Ron's blood was in the gloves. And so he said he thought it was one of the best courtroom moments in history. So I think he still sort of goes back and forth about this trial, and that just goes to show you how important it still is in his mind every day. He's going back and forth and vacillating.
But should he shoulder much of the blame here?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it was a lot more about jury selection and about really race relations during those times. Remember, those were the times of the Rodney King verdicts.
Yeah, and you have to remember, if you put yourself back in that time in L.A., you're absolutely right about that. So, Jeffrey, what do you think were the keys to the verdict?
I think the defense succeeded in changing the subject fundamentally from whether O.J. Simpson killed these two people, which he did, and from that to whether the LAPD deserved to be vindicated for their performance over many, many years. The defense managed to put the LAPD on trial, and the LAPD had a terrible relationship with African Americans in Los Angeles. They had a lot of bad actions, really bad actions to answer for, and the defense had a perfect target in Mark Furman, who embodied so much of what was wrong with the LAPD. But none of that means that O.J. Simpson was actually innocent. But they successfully changed the subject.
Yeah, it's a little bit of what you were saying about too, Sonny. It's interesting, as you said, that seeing Christopher Darden and also Marcia Clark, that inspired you to be a prosecutor.
Absolutely. I mean, I just graduated from law school when the verdict came out, and I was watching Darden's reaction, and he cried when that verdict came out. And I thought, I want a job to go to every day that I care that much about the people that I'm working for, that I would cry if I got an acquittal. And I went on to become a prosecutor just because of it. So, you know, when I spoke to him, he said, I'm surprised. He told me he was surprised that he was an inspiration for me because he's taken so much heat for his performance.
Well, that was quite an interview yesterday on The View. Thanks for being with us, Sonny. And Jeffrey, good to see you. It's been too long.
Good to see you,
Great
Robin.
to see you again. You have a good weekend, Jeffrey.
All right.
Okay. And as Mara was telling us, Christopher Darden's book, In Contempt, is now available as an e-book.